Okay, so the end of The Walking Dead is now upon us, and the 12-year-long journey that began back in 2010 is officially over. Chances are that a lot of you loved the show at some point, but you dropped off along the way, and are back to see what happened and whether it's worth checking out. Well, throughout this video, we're going to be doing a Walking Dead for Dummies breakdown that should cover everything you need to know about the ending. Full spoilers ahead from here on out, so if you don't want to know what it entrails, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. Click the thumbs up button if you think the breakdown is gravy, and make sure you subscribe for videos like this every day. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. I'm your host Paul, now let's get into The Walking Dead. Now interestingly, The Walking Dead's end doesn't end with a Walking Dead end. The series breathes new life into things to come, and we see Rick and Michonne setting up their own spin-off series which is due to start filming next month. Now, the ending sort of acts as a trailer for that, with it teasing what's to come. I'll talk about this more in a bit, but we start off with Daryl carrying Judith into a hospital, sort of in a Last of Us style with Joel and Ellie. The first episode of The Walking Dead, of course, had a major moment where Rick woke up in one, and the series is sort of coming full circle from that. The characters are either there or desperate to get there, and returning to a location like this is sort of like poetry, they rhyme. Now, in case you're not fully up to speed with where the Commonwealth is, this is basically a recreation of life before the outbreak, and it had all the characters saying we live in a society run by corrupt politicians. Led by Pamela Milton, the entire season's built towards an uprising, and she ended up unleashing a zombie horde which put the citizens into lockdown. No prizes for guessing what that's a reference to, and it threw everything into chaos. This episode very much becomes about taking her down and freeing the citizens of the Commonwealth to start something better. After we see the title sequence for the last time, we cut to the carnage happening in the Commonwealth and see both Luke and Jules being attacked by the undead. She's eaten alive whilst he's taken to hospital, and unfortunately he's been bitten as well. In classic Walking Dead style, the character had a limb amputated, but unfortunately this was too little too late and he goes out as quickly as he came back. Now Daryl ends up giving Judith a blood transfusion due to him being a universal donor. Turns out his brother Merle actually used to sell his blood for money when they were little, and yeah, looking back, very messed up. Now luckily the transfusion works, and Judith wakes up a couple of scenes later having pulled through. Judith very much foreshadows the return of Rick and Michonne, as she brings up how she and the pair were meant to be reunited again. This is clearly setting up one of the major arcs that will happen in their series, and though they've got some villains to fight, I think it will likely centre around them having to find their daughter. Well, Laurie's daughter, because she's not Michonne's, and Shane was the biological dad, so reunited with some chumps, basically.
See you, chump.
Now, but Kaylee Fleming, who plays her, has always said that Rick is very much a true father because he's the person who raised her. In the world of The Walking Dead, the characters unfortunately are gonna see several people die, and thus they end up forming their own families out of who is left behind. Very much echoed in Rosita later, and I like the way that it's sort of touched upon here, foreshadowing what's to come. The previous episode to the finale was even called Family, and it's very much using the Fast and Furious definition. We also get this ass kicker exchange.
Hey, little ass kicker.
Hey, big ass kicker.
Now this is a reference back to the scene, which unfortunately is potato quality because we couldn't find a better version, but pretend it's in HD.
Little ass kicker? Little ass kicker? You like that, huh?
Now we cut back to the Commonwealth and watch Mercer being rescued, and this sets up things for Negan, Maggie and Co to man up a mission to the hospital. Aaron and Lydia arrive camouflaged in the walkers, with the latter having her arm amputated due to being bit last week. Elsewhere, Rosita, Gabriel and Eugene managed to save Coco and the kids, and that walker trying to reach into the crib was pretty horrifying. However, upon trying to escape, their ambulance is swarmed by the undead, and maybe they could have seen that happening if they'd read their horoscopes. Horoscopes,
Ha
The hospital is being swarmed too, with us seeing more of the smart zombies. Casey just checking in to find out what happened in the finale because you need closure, then basically the undead have started evolving. Eating all those brains must have helped out, as there are now some that are able to climb and also use tools. Some have the awareness to pick up weapons and blunt objects, which we see demonstrated here. Using a rock, a walker is able to smash a window in the hospital entrance, and thus they can flood the building. I kinda wish that they'd introduced these elevated aspects in earlier seasons, as we did hit a point where the undead were just cannon fodder. This makes them feel infinitely more dangerous, as we had just hit a point where people were slicing through them without any danger. We sort of get that demonstrated in the scene with Rosita as she falls off a pipe gets swarmed, and then still seemingly comes out on top. Jumping on top of the ambulance, I was sat there like, "Ugh, here we go again." And we see she moves up the pipe she just fell from, getting back to safety. Or so we think. Rosita later reveals to Eugene that she was actually bitten during this moment, but that she didn't want anyone to know. It's such a heartbreaking moment, and I've actually watched this scene twice now, and knowing the reveal, it hits even harder. It initially just starts off in silence, and she just sits there staring at Coco, trying to take everything in. Eugene brings up teaching her to swim at Oceanside, and knowing this won't happen is completely devastating. Eugene's going to be the one who's taking care of Coco now, and it ties back to this idea of family and how those left behind are the ones who raise the others. Just feels like she was robbed and is sat there imagining the life she should have had. Now this scene is mirrored in the one that precedes it with Maggie and Negan. Here he apologises flat out to her and says he's sorry for taking Glenn away from her and their son. Negan's starting his own family now, and he knows what he took from the pair in his power play to intimidate them. In the last episode, he was almost executed along with Annie, and it was very much a role reversal for him, making him realise how Maggie and Glenn would have felt. Negan's gone on one of the most interesting arcs in the entire series, and seeing the regret on his face speaks volumes, and he vows to kill Pamela for her. From here, we get a very reflective scene, which acts very much as the calm before the storm. Daryl, Carol, and Judith have a major scene in which he asks about what she said about her parents during her delirium. She apologises for not telling them about what Michonne said, but the peace is quickly broken when we see survivors trying to climb the gates of the Commonwealth. Pamela is ordering for them to be shot by the guards, and this causes those inside to mount up. They storm the troopers, guns drawn, and slowly convince the forces that the way Pamela operates is wrong. They were so stuck trying to make the world how it used to be that in the end they forgot all the problems that came with it. People are cowardly, selfish, and they've forgotten that humanity has one enemy, which are the walkers. Daryl says,
Got one enemy. We ain't the Walking Dead.
Which is a bit on the nose, but it shows how they have to keep their humanity instead of just mindlessly centering on their own wants and needs above all else. Maggie spots Pamela getting arrested, and Negan tells her that for a person like her, it's actually worse than death. Now this is very much Negan talking about himself as well. Rick allowed him to live, and that was actually a greater punishment than if he'd killed him because of the guilt that he had to confront. Now they let the people outside in as a horde closes around them, and Pamela walks up to the gate. Here stands a reanimated Lance, and Pamela would genuinely rather have her face bitten off by him than going to jail. It's a man she looked down on for years, and he's very much a reflection of the evil deeds that she's carried out. He represents the people, and this metaphorically symbolises an uprising against crooked politicians. At least that's how I took it anyway. Now her attempting to get eaten by him shows that she'd rather have her head torn apart than actually having to face up to what she's done, which is a bit mental. Maggie instead shoots him, and Judith convinces her that it's not too late to help people. We've of course seen that happen with Negan, and she changes her mind, but there's still the horde to deal with. Mercer brings in a new plan which involves the citizens mounting up with riot shields, and they heard the walkers using a song called The Cult of Personality. This is by the band Living Colour, and it has a lot of meaning to it. Now the phrase The Cult of Personality was actually coined in the 50s in an anti-Stalin report. The song was meant to explore what good and bad figures have in common and how people tend to follow those whose personalities they gravitate towards. Some people are larger than life, but at the end of the day, everyone is just human. However, their personalities make them seem bigger, and people can become idols based on who they are and the amount of people that follow them. The followers of politicians are often said to have been swayed, and that they're in the cult of personality, so having the walkers follow this song, to me at least, is a nod to that. Pamela was of course a political figure, and many of the people surrounding her fell into the cult of personality. This scene following after her downfall and having them all go up with the estate metaphorically shows how the brain-dead zombies have finally seen through the cult that she's created. Might be a big reach like I said, but there are things you can apply to real life here, and how following someone blindly can often lead to your downfall. Anyway, this leads to a gigantic explosion that's easily the best in the show's history. It wipes out the entire estate along with the walkers, and is the final goodbye to this corrupt leadership and everything that it stood for. In jail, Pamela talks about how heavy lies the crown, and how leadership comes with the necessity to make ugly decisions. Outside, Negan throws away the Whisperer mask, which symbolises the closing of that chapter, even though it was a while ago, and he and Maggie sit together. Maggie says she'll never be able to fully forgive Negan for smashing Glenn's head like it's the like button, but she remains grateful that he saved her son, and that he's out here trying. She knows she doesn't want to hurt anymore, so she will try too, because she doesn't want anyone to have that kind of hold over her. However, she knows it will be difficult because she remembers Glenn dying every time she looks at Negan. She doesn't want that to dominate her life and says that Negan and Annie have earned their place now. However, she apologizes for being unable to look at him some days due to the pain it will bring up, and yeah, it's a very bittersweet scene. Daryl watches him leave, and as he later sends the compass back, I don't think they're going to be around all that much. However, they have to be close for that to happen, so they're likely residing at Hilltop. Now this scene also sets up their show, The Walking Dead Dead City. A brand new trailer for this has just dropped, and we know from it that it will be set in New York. Though we don't have a general outline of it yet, it's likely going to be about forgiveness, and Maggie learning to look at him without seeing her husband being murdered. I've also seen the start of Batman v Superman, and maybe there's hope these two can make something, just to also get murdered in front of the one they love. Now, they have a Last Supper, and if you cast your mind back to Season 7, there was a dream scene in which a picnic played out. We even saw Glenn there, and it was very much a what-if version of the future that would never come to be. It's a very similar thing that happens here, and it all plays out as a happy and peaceful time. The song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac plays over the top, and we see several things playing out. Magna kisses Yumiko, they make up, and we see Rosita also telling Gabriel. Rosita is just enjoying the time she has left, and Psychic Judith can also sense something is up. Everyone must slowly have become aware as we see her getting carried up to be with her daughter, where Gabriel reads her last rites. He takes Coco and says that they'll see her again someday. Eugene comes in, and the pair have of course had their highs and lows throughout the entire series. My man was basically like Forrest Gump holding on for his Jenny, and in the end she says,
I'm glad it was you in the end.
Must have been some dust in the room, cause this final scene broke me a bit and made me do full-on Kevin Smith. It shows the bond that the pair had, and out of everyone, in the end, she'd rather it was him by her side. And from here we get a 1-year time jump and see how things have moved on. There are still memories of those that have died, but Eugene has had his own child, who's now named Rosie. After Rosie. Now Ezekiel is now the governor with Lieutenant... These videos are really bad, I'm sorry. Now Ezekiel is now the governor with Lieutenant Mercer as his right-hand man. Carol has also taken up a new position, and she's been appointed as the new improved Lance. Negan has sent Judith a present through Lydia, and we see that this is the compass that she let him use. This shows that he no longer needs it because he's not searching for anything or looking in another direction from where he is. He hopes that it will help guide her to her dreams, and this once more resembles the picnic scene from Season 7, showing how everything has worked out. Here they built a community in future, and Maggie says that they should branch out more. Carol and Daryl did have their own spin-off show in the works, but we now know that Melissa McBride pulled out, and thus this ending with the pair is very much them saying their goodbyes. They say it's not like they'll never see each other again, but we'll see what happens when contracts are brought into it. Daryl heads off on the road, and it is possible that he might bump into Rick and Michonne. He says that if he sees anything out there, he'll find them, and Daryl popping up in their show would be a big thing to get viewers back. Judith promises to look after Dog and Carol for him, and the pair say that they love each other. Best mates, and they deserve that happy ending. Now he is getting his own show too, and that could possibly take him to France. This is where the virus originated, and it would make sense as to why this goodbye was so heartbreaking because he probably won't come back. He heads out on the road, and though walkers still roam the landscape, there is the feeling of security to it and that everyone's going to be alright. However, it's not over, and a match sparks up to reveal Michonne and Rick both writing letters to Judith. Rick says he thinks about the dead all the time, which Michonne also echoes. Beyond that, we also get flashes of basically all the characters in the show in a sort of Days of Our Lives montage. It's very spiritual, talking about how their souls all kind of wind together, and the pair sort of have a Teenage Mutant Turtles campfire scene. You know when they reached out to Splinter psychically? Sort of like that. Now a helicopter arrives, and it becomes clear that Rick has escaped the CRM. This stands for Civic Republic Military, and they're the antagonists that have appeared in pretty much every spin-off show, ranging from Fear the Walking Dead to The World Beyond. On The Walking Dead World Beyond, Jada said that she traded Rick to them for admittance into the Civil Republic, which is located in Philadelphia. Made up of 200,000 survivors, Rick was taken there, and due to the stick he's carrying, we know that he was part of a decontamination center. Now, comicbook.com did a big interview with the showrunner to talk about what's going on in the scene, and they said that due to his hard work, he was promoted to being a soldier. When discussing the scene with the site, the director said, in this particular moment in time, they're thinking about each other, they're thinking about the people that they love and the people that they've lost. And to do that, and to know that the reason that they are still dedicated to their fight is because of the people that they lost and the people that they love. So that's what it was all about, and without a doubt, I feel that we captured that spirit, and the spirit of moving forward what the world has in store for them. This series presents an epic love story of two characters changed by a changed world, kept apart by distance, by an unstoppable power, by the ghosts of who they were. Rick and Michonne are thrown into another world, built on a war against the dead, and ultimately a war against the living. Can they find each other and who they were in a place and situation unlike anything they've ever known before? Are they enemies, lovers, victims, victors? Without each other, are they even alive? Or will they find that they too are the walking dead? Now I think that the upcoming series will explore Rick's time with them, and along with Michonne, he'll take them out possibly with some help from Daryl. He'll then tell them of Judith, and this will bring everything full circle. And Michonne is also wearing a samurai-esque suit, which likely comes from the group that we saw in her last episode before this. It's also important to bear in mind that the boat we see is also Boat 672, which has appeared earlier in the series. This came after Michonne recognized Rick's boots, and she realized that he was out there. So lots of things going on, and huge shoutouts to Movie Idol for saying that Beale could be involved in this scene too, we just don't see him. Michonne rides towards a giant horde ready to take them on, and Rick starts to smile as we fade to white. You also get a little coda with Judith, which kind of teases that they will be reunited again. Now the little smile from Rick, to me, at least says like, you guys don't know what you're messing with, come on and bring it. That sounded so British, it's like, come on and bring it, you chump. But yeah, that's a feeling I get, and he's clearly not intimidated, showing he's ready for whatever they may bring. Either way, that wraps up the season, and you know what? After all its ups and downs, I thought this was a pretty good way to close things off. For years now, I've wondered how they're actually going to end this whole thing, and it would be impossible to do it and completely knock it out of the park. I thought this was as satisfying as a send-off that we ever could have got. Has some action to it, a heartbreaking death I'm still not over, and also some hope for the future. Sure, the gang have been through this a number of times where they set up shop and then it all comes crashing down, but this feels different. It gave me enough to want to check out the Rick and Michonne series, which I think is as good as it can get in terms of being a season finale that sets up some spin-offs. It's wild looking back at The Walking Dead and thinking about how much it popularized zombies. Back before they became the go-to thing, this was the show that resurrected them, and though it's had its bad and good times, I think we'll probably look back on it fondly. It had thousands of copies, just like how Screen Rant take your entire thumbnail style and try to pass it off as theirs, but this is still the original. Whether it's the best is up for debate, but yeah, I did think this was a satisfying conclusion to a story that I didn't ever think would get one. In the end, we were The Walking Dead. Oh, no, we weren't The Walking Dead, and that's our breakdown. That's the ending explained. Now, obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so make sure you comment below. We're in a competition right now giving away 3 copies of House of the Dragon Season 1 on the 15th of December, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the finale. We pick the comments at random on the 15th, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of 1899, which will be linked on screen right now. Great series, lots to take from the ending, so definitely head over there right after this. Either way, thanks for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.